The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the final hour of tonight's show here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. And we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines. Jeez, we can move around so much, it's hard to keep track. St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. And there's something always going on here tonight in the X Zone. In fact, every night. My next guest, X Zone Nation, is Michael SEARS, and he's joining us from Burns, Tennessee. And Michael, welcome to the X Zone.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I live just outside Nashville, Tennessee. I'm married. I'm self-employed, and prior military. Used to serve in the United States Air Force. I was a police officer in the Air Force, and I've lived in Tennessee now since 2005.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
How did you get involved in the paranormal? You're a paranormal investigator, paranormal researcher. How did all this come about?
Well, it started early in my life. When I was age 5, I saw my first ghost. My parents, we lived in Western New York in the Finger Lakes area. And I saw a little girl in Victorian clothes in the middle of the night in my bedroom, and ran down to tell my parents that I had just seen a ghost. And my parents were not big believers at the time, and thought I had an active imagination. And throughout life, I had had other encounters with ghosts, but then 1994 is where I had my life changes experiences with the paranormal, and that inspired me to seek more answers and research on it.
What happened in 1994?
94, I had 2 major experiences. First one was my dad. My dad was battling cancer. And,
I'm sorry to hear that.
And he passed away twice. The first time he passed away, he was in a coma for about a week. We had him at home with hospice care, and the hospice came in every other day. My mom and I would fill in for the days that they weren't there, and they were off that night. And they said that my dad's health at that time, it looked like he was probably going to pass away that evening, and asked if they wanted us for them to stay. And my mom says, no, we can handle it. If we need you, we'll give you a call. Well, my mom watched him. I went to bed, and about 3:00 in the morning, she said he took his last breath, and she was at his side of his bed for about a half hour grieving. And she decided to go and tell me that he had passed away. And before she could leave the room, he sat up out of the bed and said, "Where are you going? I need to talk to you." And he goes, "I begged them to allow me to come back and talk to you and Mike and let you two know that I'll be okay on the other side." And so she went and sat down next to him, and they talked for several hours. He talked to past relatives that had passed away. His first wife, who had passed away in the early 1960s from cancer, she was Japanese. He had met her in his time of service when he was stationed in Japan. And he spoke fluent Japanese and interpreted back and forth to my mom and to his first wife, who my mom says she couldn't see her. But she could feel like there was like this energy presence in the room. And by that time, it was almost 7:00 in the morning. And she's like, "I need to go wake up Mike and let him know what's going on." And he's like, "Well, I like to freshen up first. I want to take a shower." And he got out of the bed and took a shower on his own, which was, a shocker. So she comes and wakes me up and tells me that my dad wants to talk to me, which shocked me because he hadn't spoken for about a week. And for that whole month up to it, he was very, very weak. He had to be hand fed and all that. And so when I went to go check on him, he wasn't in the hospice bed that we had in our living room. And I said, "Where'd he go?" And she's like, "He's in his own bed." And I was like, I was in shock. And so I go in there and I see him, and he had all the color back in his face. He looked healthy. And he says, "Hey, I just want to make sure you're okay. And I don't want you to worry about me. And just to let you know that everything will be fine after I go." And so we talked for a bit. And some of the things he's like, "Do you have any questions?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what to ask." And I was like in shock. And I jokingly said, "Well, it'd been nice if you had taught me how to use your tools and stuff like that." My dad was very protective of his tools and all that. So we got talking. And one of the things that blew me away was I said, "Well, you've had it rough. You know, you've been battling cancer for about 10 years. And he's like, "Well, I haven't had it rough." And I said, "Well, who's had it rougher than you?" And he goes, "Jesus has had it rough." And I about fell off his bed because my dad was not a churchgoer. If I heard the name Jesus from him, it was because he was cussing. So that shocked me. And so when he goes, "Well, I guess I'm done. I'm ready to go back." And my mom goes, "Well, I don't know how this works. Maybe you have to go back to sleep." So we said our goodbyes and he went to sleep, and we went out in the living room, and she told me all that had happened that night. And it was about 11 o'clock in the morning. We hear him yelling out, going, "Hello, hello." And we go to check on him, and he's like all shocked that we're greeting him. He's like, "What are you guys doing here?" And we're like, "We live here." And he's like, "You mean they didn't come and get me?" And my mom's like, "I'm not sure what that's all about. I'm not sure." And she goes, "Maybe they're giving you a free pass for the day or something." And so he's like, "Well, I'm starved." And so she's like, "Well, what would you like? Some soup? You want a smoothie?" This guy was on a liquid diet for almost a month. And he's like, "No, I want some real food." You know, he's like, "Mike, run down to the store and get some food." So I went and got what would be his favorite dishes if it was his last supper type of deal. And when I went to the grocery store, they had fresh live crawfish. And so I grabbed that, some corn on the cob, a steak, and even some beer in case he wanted that. And I got back home and surprised him. You know, he's walking around the house. He helped me cook the meal. And we sat down at the kitchen table and had a nice family meal. And then we enjoyed in the living room for a while. We went through family albums and watched family movies. And then he says, "I want to go back to my own bed." And we went in there and just shared family stories and talked and all throughout the night until it was almost midnight. And he's like, "I'm exhausted." And he says, "I want to go to sleep." He says, "If I don't wake up in the morning, I just want to let you know that I'll be okay. And don't worry about me. Everything will be fine." And he goes, "If I can, I'll try to make contact with you to let you know from the other side." And we're like, "Oh, okay." Which, is surprising to hear. And so we all said goodnight to him. Mm-hmm. The next morning, the doorbell's ringing and it's hospice. And my mom comes in a panic to wake me up and goes, "Hospice is here." And I said, "Okay, let him in." She goes, "Well, how do I explain to it? He's in his own bed." And so we'll just tell him what happened. And so they come in and they find him not in the hospital bed, and they're all upset. And they think we dragged him out of his hospital bed so he could die in his own bed. And we tried to explain to them. They didn't believe us. So my mom and I were like, "We know what happened yesterday." And so they got him back into his hospital bed, and he passed away 3 days later.
What a story.
Yeah.
How do you explain it, Mike?
I don't know. I mean, they just blew me away. I mean, I was speechless. Today I have all kinds of questions. I would love to know, since he said Jesus had it rough, I was like, well, did you actually meet the guy? I mean, how do you know this? Yeah. And then was he able to visually see all the relatives that were in the room? My mom said she didn't see anyone, but he was talking and his eyes were focusing like there was people standing there. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. And he did make contact after.
He did.
Yeah, we had some different things that happened. One of the things I asked him was, "What are you going to miss once you leave this side?" And he goes, "Well, we lived in Florida at the time." And he's like, "I planted a pineapple plant, an orange tree, and an avocado tree, and I never got a fruit off them." And he says, "I was really looking forward to that." So after his death that fall, all three of those plants produced only 2 fruit, 1 each for my mom and I. And so we took that as a sign. Another event that happened was after his death, it was about, I think it was like 3 to 5 days time period, a cardinal would appear and tap on the window where his hospice bed was. And it was around the time he passed away the second time. And a cardinal was his favorite songbird. So when I said to my mom, I said, do you think this is a sign from Dad? You know, because it's showing up every day around the time he passed away. She's like, that's a possibility. That's his favorite songbird. So as soon as I said that, the bird never came back again.
Recognition.
Yeah. And then the big one, which was the day of his funeral. We came home from his funeral and I asked my mom, I said, do you want a dinner, you know, at the table and listen to music on the jukebox? I have a big AMI row jukebox that holds 145s in it. And I said, or do you want to watch TV, you know, watch the news? And she's like, I'd rather watch TV. So I bring out her dinner. I go back out to the kitchen to dish up my plate. And all of a sudden I hear the jukebox turning on and a record being selected. And I thought she had decided to listen to music, and the music starts blaring and she's yelling at me. She's like, hey, you know, I thought we weren't using the jukebox. And I said, oh, I thought that was you. So I come out and I go to turn it off. And the moment I go, hey, listen to the song. And it was the song Garth Brooks, If Tomorrow Never Comes.
Right.
And I go to the back of the jukebox to turn the off switch. And I look down to the floor and the cord's unplugged from the outlet laying on the ground. And I pick it up and I hold it and I show it to her. I said, hey, here's the plug. And she's like, no way. And I said, yeah, how is this possible? How is this playing the record? How is it all lit up? And she's like, it's got to be a message from Dad. Because like, she goes, listen to the words of the song. And then just then the record starts slowing down and the lights dimmed out and the jukebox finally just turned off.
Wow.
Yeah.
You and I have to take a break right now,
Okay.
Mike. Explanation, Michael Spears is my special guest at vsparanormal.com, and we'll both be back after this very brief message.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm having my morning coffee.
Beautiful Mind Coffee is delicious coffee your brain will love. Made with ethically sourced 100% Arabica coffee grown in the volcanic soil of the Tolima, Colombia region, Beautiful Mind Coffee is roasted and ground in small batches to ensure each bag contains a wonderful full-bodied artisan coffee. Beautiful Mind Coffee contains herbal ingredients to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Maca root powder, green tea extract and American ginseng have all been selected for their ability to support good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. For more information on Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit us online at www.beautifulmindcafe.com. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available at amazon.ca.
Man, welcome back, everyone. Mike Sears is our special guest. His website is vsparanormal.com. Mike, since that jukebox event, has your dad been around?
Yeah, later that year during Christmas, I was out shopping and it was the first Christmas without my dad. And I wanted to do it real big for my mom. So I had gone to the store and I saw this a little over 3 foot tall angel. And I decided to buy it. So I was going out to the car with it and I smelled this strong cigar smoke. And I thought someone was being rude, you know, blowing their smoke towards me. And I looking around, there's nobody in the parking lot with me. And as I was starting to put the angel in the car, I could hear my dad's voice talking to me in my head. And which was like, okay. And I get in the car and I hear him saying, hey, look, you got to go to this store and get this item. And the cigar smoke started, you know, following me into the car and it got real strong. And his voice became louder saying, you need to go there. There's an item waiting there for you and your mother. And so I drove all the way to this store and it was my dad for Christmas. He did real big. He liked cooking and he used to make real big fancy meals for the holidays. So being stationed in Asia a lot, he was in Japan, Vietnam, and Korea and that. So he knew a lot of Asian dishes. And so I went to this Asian market and I walked in there and I hear his voice say, go to the left aisle all the way down the end. You'll see it in the case. And I go down there and sure enough, it's this thing that he's been trying to have them order from Japan for quite a few years and the store hadn't been able to get it. So I grab it all and I go up to the counter and the lady goes, oh, could you please not buy all this? We're saving it for a loyal customer of ours, but we just haven't seen him this year. And we're hoping you come in to get it. We finally got what he's been requesting. And so I said, can you describe him? And she described my dad to the T. So I pulled out his photo out of my wallet and showed it to her. And she goes, yeah, that's the guy. And I said, well, I'm his son. He had passed away. And she goes, well, I guess it's meant to be for you to have it. And I didn't tell her how I got there to get it because I figured it would spook her. And so I buy it and I go out the door and I hear his voice in my head say, tell your mom Merry Christmas, from me. And drove straight home and had my mom sit down and place the angel in front of her and said, this is your early Christmas gift. And I said, now I'm going to tell you how I got your next gift. And I explained that to her. And of course, she broke down crying and was all excited that, that we got this specialty item for my dad.
Wow. So what is VS Paranormal?
It stands for Volunteer State for Tennessee's Volunteer State. Mm-hmm. And I started the team back in 2009. Fellow other people that were interested in learning about paranormal, why it happens, and researching like Afterlife. And I had joined a team in 2006 and learned from them. And I just didn't like where the direction it was going. And I got into it because when I moved to Tennessee in 2005, I had started watching some of the paranormal shows and I had seen them going in and investigating these people's homes. And a lot of it, I didn't see them finding answers. I saw more of it just they're going in there to have, an experience. And I said, these poor people still don't know what's going on or why it's happening. And so that's what I wanted to do, is to let these people know that they're not crazy, that this stuff happens. And I had an extreme haunting experience after my dad's death. And my dad passed away in June of 94. And in August of 94 is when the haunting started.
What kind of haunting?
It was connected to my dad's past. According to my mom and I ended up having a couple mediums that we met at a psychic fair. Just one weekend we were driving after, it was our first weekend ever after his death that we had a free day. And I said, let's just go out for a drive. And she saw a sign that said psychic fair. So we went there and I was a skeptic. And I told the lady that was running the place, said, do you have anybody that works with the police? And she goes, we do have one lady that helps with the sheriff's office and the state police. And I said, well, I'll take her. And she impressed me. So when the haunting started, I called her and asked her if she could help me find answers. And she's like, I can't get rid of it, but I could tell you what it is. And according to her reading and another lady that came in, they both said it was connected to my dad's past from Vietnam, and that these men had been haunting my dad since Vietnam, and they were upset that he had crossed over. And so they decided to take it out on me. And when the haunting started, I had woke up at 3:00 in the morning, thought someone had broken into the house. I was living at home with my mom. And so I tried to reach for my headboard to turn on the light to see if there was someone in my room. And before I could get to it, I felt two hands grab me by the ankles and start pulling me out of my bed. And I broke free, climbed back up the bed to get to the headboard where I slept with a gun and tried to get to that. And before I could get to it, I could feel someone jump on my back and push my face into the pillow. And I'm screaming into the pillow, trying to let my mom know that someone's in the house. And when I finally broke free, got the light on, grabbed my gun, and there's nobody in my bedroom. And my bedroom door is closed. And so I get up, I run down to her room to wake her up to explain what's going on. She's like, well, hang on. She goes, are you having, PTSD flashbacks from your time in the service? I served in Desert Shield and Storm. And right. I said, no, it's nothing like that. I said, I was physically grabbed. I said, it felt like a real person attacking me. And so she went in the restroom to wash her face to wake up. And as she came out, I thought I had an Akita, which is like a big husky dog.
Yeah.
I thought it was coming down the hall, and this force of energy hit me square in the chest, like a football player just tackled me, and I went flying backwards and hit her bedroom wall. And she's like, "Oh my God, did you lose your balance?" I said, "How do I lose my balance? I went like 8 or 10 feet back and hit into your wall at full force." I said, "I just got tacked again. This is what I'm trying to explain to you." And for about a half hour, I was constantly being attacked on and off. She could see the hair on my arms and my chest stand straight out. And when she touched me, she could feel like electrical current going through her. And it lasted about a half hour. And after it was over with, she's like, "Where's our dog?" And we went and found her, and she was scared to death, cowering underneath the kitchen table. And so the next day, we call up my grandmother to tell her what had happened. And as my mom's on the phone with her, I got attacked again. I felt like someone came in and put me in a big bear hug, and I was totally paralyzed. I couldn't move. And as time went on, I would constantly be attacked. I'd be in bed. I'd be pushed out of bed, dragged out of bed, slammed into my headboard. I'd come home and things would fly off the cabinets and hit me. Doors would open and close and slam. We had lights. We had track lighting in our living room where the lights would start flickering really fast and the light bulbs would explode. So when we called the medium, I said, "Can you, get rid of this?" She's like, "I can't get rid of it, but I could tell you what it is." So she came in and she explained that it was 3 spirits that were connected to my dad. And she said that my dad wasn't a typical soldier in Vietnam, that he worked like with special ops type stuff. And she says there was a job where these 3 guys wanted to go for personal gain, and your dad wasn't going to partake in it. And due to him not helping them, they supposedly got killed. And they were upset about that, of course. So they've been haunting him ever since, she said. But
so how did you get rid of them?
Well, we tried everything. We weren't even Catholic. We went to the Catholic church. The Catholic priest tried to help us. He reached out for the diocese in Orlando, and they wouldn't help us because we weren't Catholic. Mm-hmm. We had our neighbor, who was a Baptist minister. He came over one time, tried to bless the house, and that made things worse. As soon as he left, we had doors opening and slamming on their own, like multiple doors. We had light bulbs exploding. I got attacked that night where I was slammed into my headboard and pushed out of bed. My mom witnessed also during the times black masses flying across the room like a shadow mist. Right. My Akita got attacked one night. My mom called me at work and she's like, "Could you please come straight home after work?" I said, "What's up?" And she goes, "I just saw your dog growling at the corner, and then it just lifted off the floor and was thrown into a wall." But when the medium came over, she told us to open a Bible and read it in my bedroom. And she said, "Set it on the bed." And then she told me, she's like, "Go get some white paper to cut white crosses." And she goes, "I want you to tape these on your walls and that." So I'm like, "All right, I'll go do that." And she had lit prior into our living room a bunch of tea candles across our fireplace mantle. And so when I go back to I was ready to go back to hand her the crosses, I hear her and my mom and one of our friends that was there as a witness screaming and I hear this loud slam, and the bedroom door had slammed in their face. I said, "What's going on?" I come running up there and they go, "The Bible just lifted off your bed, slammed shut, and then the door slammed into our face." They said the pages were flipping like a fan was hitting it. So I open the door, I go in there, and it's ice cold in the room. She tells me to reopen the Bible. I try to do that. I step back. The pages start flipping again. It slams shut. The door slams shut. She's like, "That's it. I'm out of here. I can't help you." She goes, "You need, some type of clergy to help you." And then she walked out in the living room. She had lit this big 6-inch candle, which was totally melted across our coffee table. And that freaked her out. And then I go, "Are the tea candles supposed to be doing that?" And all the tea candles, there's about I think it's 6 or 8 of them. The flames were about a foot high on all the tea candles. And she's like, "No." She's like, "I'm gone. I'm sorry. I can't help you." So for help, we ended up, my mom was a school teacher, and she almost lost her job because she confided with a fellow coworker, and the coworker turned into the principal, and the principal had my mom put on leave and have a psych eval, and she passed her psych eval, so she was able to still teach. The psychiatrist believed her. And but my mom had a student that was a Native American Indian, and she found out his father was a medicine man, and she reached out and contacted him, and he came in and did about an 8-hour cleansing ceremony. And he had told me how to stand up to it and not fear it. And I was telling him, I said, I used to be a police officer. I'm used to, you can grab a bad guy and put cuffs on him. But I said, how do you grab something that has no physical form? And he says, you just got not to fear it, just stand up to it. And so that taught me a lot. And after the cleansing, nothing happened for a full year.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom went on vacation. And when she was gone, I woke up in the middle of the night. My Akita had jumped up on the bed, scared to death. And all the doors in the house started opening and closing and opening and closing. So I yelled out, I said, I'm not afraid of you anymore. Let's get it on, bring it, and it stopped. The door stopped. So after that, we would have activity throughout the house from time to time, but it wasn't as violent. And every time something happened, I just go, I'm not impressed. I'm not scared of you anymore. And it just got weaker over time. So I use that knowledge when I go out and help families that are dealing with hauntings. And
there was a lot of activity going on. Did you take any pictures?
Well, at the time, no, I didn't think of taking pictures. I didn't have a video camera. It was back in the mid 90s. Mm-hmm. Didn't have like a digital recorder. I wish I had all the equipment I have today back then. God, that would have been great. There was one paranormal team that was doing a guest speaking in town on a Halloween, and they did a nice presentation of ghost stories of the local area and they ended their lecture by saying, does anybody have a haunting? We would love to come investigate your home. So I went and talked to them after their show, and their eyes got huge. And I said, well, here's my number. Please call me. I'd love to have you guys find, what's going on. And I never heard from them. Wow. I think they got scared from all the things I told them.
Unreal. Listen, you and I have to take another break. Okay. When we come back, more with our very special guest, Mike Sears, this hour. His website is vsparanormal.com. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Mike Sears is our special guest, vsparanormal.com. Mike, sounds like that was a pretty negative experience you had.
Yeah, it definitely was. To this day, I still have nightmares from time to time.
Man alive.
I have more PTSD from the haunting than I do from the war.
Would you say that was your most negative experience you've had?
Yeah, that was probably one of the most negatives I've encountered. The closest I had on an investigation in Nashville, we were at an old elementary school investigating, and the medium that we were working with, she had picked up on a guy that was linked to the property. We researched the name and found out that name matched to the property, and he had been hung by the city of Nashville for messing with kids at the school. And we were down there, and one of the team members goes, "Mike, you just disappeared. You just totally black all around you. I don't see your silhouette sitting in the chair." And I said, "Well, my left ear is getting really, really hot." And the medium goes, "I think you're being attacked. You need to leave." So I go to stand up, and I felt this big paw of a hand push down on my shoulder and push me back into the chair. And she's like, "Are you going to leave?" And I said, "I'm trying." And so I got back up again. And as I left, they said they saw a ball of light follow me out the door. When we got outside, my left ear was like beet red. And then the next day when I went to look in the mirror to check it out, it had peeled like a sunburn. So that's about the closest I've had negative on an investigation.
What's your most positive?
Positive. I helped a family. They had an individual in their family that committed suicide, and the wife had contacted me and she believed he was staying around the house haunting. And so we went in there and had some amazing EVPs capturing his voice, apologizing for taking his life and how he hurt his family and everything. And we had asked questions. Do you have a message for your father or your mother? Well, her in-laws were really upset that she was doing the investigation, and she wanted me to talk to him. And I said, well, what if it really is him when you want him to have peace and move on? And so when it came to the data, I had them sit down and I said, these are personal messages to you. And one of the ones that blew me away was I asked the mother, I said, have you been painting? And she says, well, we painted the kitchen. I said, no, I think this is artistic. And then the husband goes, oh yeah, you took that art class a couple months after his death that your sister bought. And I said, what time was that? And it was like 2 months before we investigated. And we had an EVP. I said, would you have a message for your mom? He goes, tell her I saw her painting. It was real nice. And so that blew her away. And then I had a special message for the father to share. And that ended up healing the family altogether because they were very upset with their daughter-in-law there. So that was a positive one that I really liked.
So when somebody calls you up, Mike, and says, I think my house is haunted, I'd like VS Paranormal to come down and take a look, how do you guys proceed?
I do multiple phone interviews. And if there's more people that live in the house, I interview each of them, and I do that to see how their stories change.
Right.
And then I tell them to keep a journal because I want to see how serious they are. And I usually, if the activity increases or gets worse, then I'll come in sooner. But I usually give them a month and say, write down everything that's happening. And then after that, I'll come in and do an on-site interview. And again, to see if their stories change and all that, and I'll do a base reading. And then from there, I'll decide if we need to do a full-blown investigation.
And how long does a full-blown investigation take, and what does it entail?
It takes several months. We try to go back at least 2 or 3 times. Usually we can find an answer in that amount of time, but I've had cases that have taken over a year. Trying to find answers for someone. And I tell them, I said, it's not like you see on TV where they come in, knock on the door, they do the overnight investigation, and the next day you see them giving answers to the people and they move on. And I always ask them, what do you want from us? Do you want to find out what it is? There's no guarantee for a removal. Sometimes they come back.
What kind of equipment do you use, Mike?
We use the typical stuff, a lot of stuff you see on TV, EMF meters, digital voice recorders. To me is like the biggest piece of equipment that we like using because we have those intelligent audio responses to the questions. And so we try to use that. We also use motion lights where we've had that with amazing communication where we can say, turn the light on the left here. We'll point to the light. This is yes, and this is no. And they'll answer the questions that way. We've had some pretty good success with that.
How many investigations have you and VS Paranormal done?
I lost count. It was over 200 that I've done. Yeah.
And what was your biggest investigation?
Well, for residential, we had one in North Nashville that lasted a little over a year. And that was a long one. And
what kind of investigation was it?
The lady, it was really sad because she had multiple teams coming in the past and told her she had a demonic haunting because she was being woken up and touched and being frightened, of course. And so she had like this, a medium that was definitely a fraud, sold her a case, which I call Ghost Be Gone spray. And she charged her $300 a can. And due to the size of her property, she needed a case of 12 cans at $300 a pop.
Whoa.
Yeah.
$3,600.
Yeah. And so I came in and did multiple investigations. I brought in different mediums. I don't have the mediums talk to the client because I don't want it to I've seen where I've worked with teams where they had a medium talk to the client, ends up having the client terrified because the mediums tell them, oh, I picked up on this guy. He did this and killed his whole family. And I'm like, well, where do you have the backup for that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Your team hasn't done any research on that. And you're just going to tell the client right off the bat that just because that's what you're feeling. I said, that's not good. So I always have the mediums not talk to the client at all. And I have them write everything down on paper. And so we can use the notes to reference back to see if our research backs up what they're claiming.
In your opinion, where's the most haunted place in Tennessee?
Oh, wow. There's quite a few. Rippavilla is a Civil War plantation. And I did probably about a dozen investigations there. And I worked with Chris Fleming there, and he even ranked it in his top 10 for most haunted when I worked with him there. We saw full body apparitions, multiple intelligent, EVP responses. It's a very active place. So what is the main goal of paranormal investigations? What are you guys trying to prove? Well, to me, just to prove to the people that they're not crazy, that the stuff is out there, that it does happen, and it's not always an active imagination, which puts people more at ease, because a lot of them, because their families saying, "Oh, you're just crazy. It's just your active imagination, or you're under a lot of stress." I doubt it. It's your brother or your sister or your mother or whatever, making contact. And I'm like, how do you know that? Me, I said, to me, it's more than coincidence when you start asking the questions and you're getting intelligent responses to it. And then we had the client, sometimes we have them hold up photographs of their family members, and all we do is just say, hold this photo up. And then we'll go, can you tell us who this is? We're asking the spirit. And we've had, clear as day EVPs going, that's me, stating the name. And, or can you tell us who this is in the photo? And they'll name that family member. All right, Mike, stand by. We've got to take our final break for tonight. And Exonation Mike SEARS is our special guest, vsparanormal.com. And we'll both be back as we wrap up this show tonight here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Beautiful Mind Coffee is delicious coffee your brain will love. Made with ethically sourced 100% Arabica coffee grown in the volcanic soil of the Tolima, Colombia region, Beautiful Mind Coffee is roasted and ground in small batches to ensure each bag contains a wonderful full-bodied artisan coffee. Beautiful Mind Coffee contains herbal ingredients to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Maca root powder, green tea extract and American ginseng have all been selected for their ability to support good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. For more information on Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit us online at www.beautifulmindcafe.com. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available at amazon.ca.
Mike SEARS is our very special guest. He's with VS Paranormal. How many members are there in VS Paranormal, Mike?
Right now, there's 4 active members right now. We've took a little break due to the COVID. Everybody's trying to get their lives all back in order.
With all the equipment you have, what is your favorite piece of equipment?
I like the REM pod, and I also probably the digital voice recorder, because you can actually hear the live intelligent responses that you get through.
So you're able to ask a question and get a response right away that you can.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Wow.
I use an Olympus digital recorder where I can plug in headphones and hear the recording live as I'm asking the questions. And there's times I've actually, heard the voice reply come right through the headphones, and which is amazing. Sometimes where we've had 4 people with recorders on and only one recorder got it.
Well, there's so many places in the United States that I've had the pleasure of talking to various investigators from all the way from Gettysburg to Waverly. And I can't understand, all right, when it comes to a battleground haunting, I can understand why those spirits never leave, because that's the way it is. But in a place like Waverly, why do the ghosts remain? Why don't they go? And do you think that these ghosts or spirits ever get really annoyed at the amount of attention that they're getting?
I would think sometimes they would probably get bothered. There was a place that we investigated that was like there was like a paranormal team coming there almost every weekend, and that's why that's why I stopped going. And it seemed like that they were, agitated, like, again with the "you want me to turn on the light," kind of deal. It seemed like, but like Ripa Villa Plantation, the director of the museum there wanted to know why they're staying at the plantation. So they had multiple employees had seen the original owners, spirits walking the property. So when we had asked their names, we had asked Nathaniel and that, why are you still here? And, we had intelligent response come through saying it's my house. And, and then the wife, saying, it's my home and it's beautiful. So I could see, why they were connected, because they put a lot of work into that plantation, that house. Their life story was pretty interesting, how they built that house. He was a mason, and he didn't like how the mansion was being built the first time, and he made him tear it all down and start new. So I can see why he was so connected with it.
I imagine so. Listen, you and your team go out and go to some very negative places. How do you protect yourself, and how do you make sure you don't have somebody follow you back home again?
Mostly by our, people. Each of my team members have different religious faiths, so they do prayer, for protection. We sometimes do like the Native American Indian, where we do the saging with white sage. We smudge ourselves, to cleanse. We do that. I've had spirits follow me home, but it's never been, negative follow me home. I think it's just, hey, this guy reached out and talked to me. I want to talk some more. So I've had it where they've showed up and I've said, hey, you need to go. I haven't reviewed your recordings yet, or you're talking. So, but I'll get back with you.
Mike, what are your final words for the X Zone Nation? What would you like them to know about investigating the paranormal, and do they need to be afraid of the paranormal?
I don't think you got to be afraid of it, but you got to be cautious. It does have its negative side, and you just got to be careful. See, I would just say, just be, on guard. You never know what you're going to expect. I've rarely ever encountered anything negative. I could probably count on both hands on all the investigations I've done where I've been pushed or I've seen someone attacked. I've seen other teams where I went to go help them and did not like the way they worked because they were provoking. And they wonder why they got scratched or they got pushed into a wall. And I'm like, well, what do you expect? You were saying nasty things, calling them a coward and all that. So I said, came back and bit you.
And where can our listeners find out more about you and the work that you do?
You can find us on Facebook under Volunteer State Paranormal Research, or you can go to our website, vsparanormal.com.
Mike, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. Continued success, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for
Have a nice evening, sir.
You too.
Bye-bye. And that's it for tonight, X Zone Nation. I will be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. But there's one thing you can't deny. The people that we've had on the show tonight, they have had an experience that has changed their life. Not one experience, but many experiences. So, as always, I'd like to thank my producer here, Craig West, for his work, Mac Alexander, my program director, and of course, my senior executive producer, my lovely wife and best friend, Laura. So until tomorrow night, my friends, take care of each other. We are each other's brothers and sisters, And always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.